Hello, America. This is the DMZ America podcast for Sunday, September 10th, 2023. Coming to you from the left, I'm editorial cartoonist Ted Rall.
I'm editorial cartoonist Scott Stantis, coming to you from the right.
Hello, Scott. Always
Hey,
good to see
Ted.
you. So, we've been talking about this for quite some time about how Joe Biden was basically too old to run again, too old, too senile, too a lot of things, not leadery enough. It seems that the polls have caught up with us. Over 70% of registered Democrats say that they would prefer a different candidate from the one that they are apparently going to get. The polls are just absolutely not moving. That's 67% told CNN that they would prefer someone else as the nominee.
That's amazing.
It's amazing, and especially considering that he doesn't really have a strong opponent. Marianne Williamson, you hardly even know she's running. I mean, she hardly seems to know that she's running. RFK Jr. started out strong out of the gate. I think part of these 67% were supporting him, but his star is fading somewhat due to the pile-on effect over his vaccine positions and stuff like that. And also he's just being completely suffocated, right? There's just no room for him. So now we are about to see, I think, Bidexit, as I have just coined it. So we're having
right, Ted Rall.
Bidexit countdown, right? So the question is, does he make? So let me again build the case for why by the mainstream media, or at least a faction of the mainstream media, as we Marxists like to call it, there's a division in the ruling class. And that is what's going on here. So some members of the ruling class in the DNC are laying the groundwork for Bidexit. So you've got these articles like in The Hill, bad Biden polls stoke third-party angst for Democrats. Also in The Hill, the memo, 5 Democratic alternatives if President Biden exits the 2024 race, which is funny because President Biden has made no sign whatsoever of wanting to exit the 2024 race. So this is kind of like a little push, right? And then The Hill also, same day, 3 all on the same day. Democrats express frustration with Biden's moribund poll numbers. So 3 days, 3 articles, 3 articles, same day, same publication, and you can see the same thing going on over at the Washington Post. The New York Times is a little slower to Bidexit, and Politico. So the point is, the mainstream media seems to be sending the message: look, Joe, we waited for you to get your numbers up. We wanted to see what you could do with the economy, but it's not working. It's not going to be a thing for you. And we need to start, we're heading for the exits. We're done. And so, I mean, Scott, you predicted this. The question now is, if it happens, when and how will it happen? Will it happen?
Yeah, it seems to me, I mean, you touched on it when you're teeing this up. And I think you're right. It hadn't occurred to me until you said it. I'm sorry, I'm afraid, but this is going to be extemporaneous speaking.
Well, that's why we have a podcast.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. We have a podcast. That's what they're all about. Mm-hmm. The idea that perhaps it could even be complicit with this White House, that they're teeing up the idea of him not running. And so, as you said, over this weekend, the mainstream media is all of a sudden going, oh, wait a minute, he's old? What really frosts my shore on this, Ted, is that there are 2 cartoons in the, on Go Comics, editorial cartoons, by mainstream editorial cartoonists berating those of us who think that because he's old, that how dare we suggest that he's too old. Their counterpoint is that he's he may be too old, but he's not Trump. It's just like, that doesn't fly. That's not
that counterpoint, by the way, if it's a counterpoint, is already out there, right?
Yes, exactly.
Because these 2 men just ran against each other.
So, 4 years ago. Yeah.
Right. So we know. I mean, it's kind of like you can't it's like, what are you going to do? Remind people, oh, by the way, you're a human being. You have 2 arms and 2 legs, unless you had an industrial accident or a birth defect. I mean, like you're telling people, it's like, do they think the American people have forgotten about Donald Trump? I mean, what?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is we have 2 candidates. We know who they are, sort of. I mean, I've mentioned this on this podcast a number of times before. We don't know who Joe Biden is because he's never out there. He's, there nowadays, have you seen him in the last, say, month? His condition has gotten worse. He's getting older. And he reads prepared statements, can't read them, really struggles to get through them. And Ted, it's not like it's, some Herculean, Castro-like 8-hour speech. These are like comments.
Right.
And he struggles through them. Now, regardless of your politics, just take a deep breath and try to look at this objectively and you can say, listen, this guy, the economy's in a weird place right now. And that's, it is the economy stupid. Unemployment's at an all-time low, but you and I both know that unemployment numbers are bullshit because they've been fucked around with for decades now. But okay, let's go along with unemployment numbers are low. Inflation is at around 3.5%, which isn't terrible.
No, it's not bad at all. I mean, the target is 2%. But
he has to go out there and sell this. And so what the Republicans are doing, they're going out there and saying, look, and they're right on some areas. Go to the grocery store. You can't get out of the grocery store for under $100 now.
Oh, no fucking way.
I go out to
drop $150 and you come out of there with like one little bag and you're like, what?
I go to lunch with my wife, and that we used to go to lunch because my wife is Croatian. They're a thrifty people. So instead of going out to dinner, we go out to lunch, and the lunches, because the lunches were cheaper. And now they're, almost always $40 to $50 for 2 people. And we don't drink.
That's booze. A cheap lunch, by the way.
That's what I hear in Manhattan. Yeah. Well, we're here. Yeah. We're here in God's country down here in Alabama. My point is that he has to step forward and say, listen, things are much better than they were. We're recovering from this stuff. But he's allowing the right-wing press, particularly Fox and all the other, the even loopier members of that cadre to kind of frame the narrative. He's president of the United States of America. He should be out there doing it, but he cannot. And you and I mentioned this in the 2020 campaign, that he was having one campaign event a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Trump was ridiculous. Regardless of what you felt about masking and all COVID, all that stuff, he just wasn't out there. And he's out there less. And now he's in. And the other thing is,
there's also he's been an invisible president. I mean,
yes.
Think about Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon was giving Oval Office speeches probably every week. I mean, he gave pressers multiple times a week, and and he was always up our ass. I mean, it was almost like annoying. Like, oh my God, he's interrupting All in the Family again.
But you knew who he was, and I've mentioned this. We knew who Nixon was. We knew who Ford was for the,
every president has reduced that successfully. I mean, successively, they have reduced their exposure to the public. But this is a huge drop off. And by the way, I think that reduction was never a smart move on the part of these people. And so now. Yeah, I mean,
Trump reversed it. Trump would stop.
I'm going to argue with James Carville. It's no longer the economy stupid. It's leadership stupid. And Joe Biden, whatever you like, even if you like him, he's not a leader. He can't. A leader rallies the troops. If he encourages us, he says, if things are bad, don't worry. We know it's bad. We're working on it, and here's what we're doing, and we'll get back to you. We'll keep you informed. He doesn't he doesn't talk to the American people. We don't literally fucking know what he's up to.
I'm literally, as soon as we're done with this, going to post to Center Clip, which is a thing that Ted and I do. It's a effectively mini podcast, 30 seconds, no longer than 5 minutes. I'm going to mention that the picture from the recent visit of President Biden to India, where he's shaking hands with the head of India, who is
Prime Minister Modi.
Modi is committing heinous crimes against the Muslim minority. I mean, and being owned and operated by the religious right of India, to the point where they're talking about changing the name of the country, if you've heard this.
To Bharat.
Yes, which is really kind of cool. It sounds, but there's a picture that was just released this morning of Joe Biden shaking hands, a 3-way handshake, where they pile their hands on each other, between head of India and the head of Saudi Arabia, the guy who takes American people who are on American soil legally and tortures them and cuts them into pieces. That's the leadership he's showing us. I mean,
yes,
it's like,
that's right. Yeah, no
I
more.
mean, he probably doesn't know who they are.
No more fist bump with Mohammed bin Salman, right? Like it was a full handshake. Yeah,
I mean, it's
disgusting.
It is one of the most repulsive leaders on the face of the planet. And this guy's
the Taliban guy is like he's a prince among men, and by comparison.
So getting back to Biden and his age, yes, age is an issue here because age is an issue. It's not like I'm making this up, and it's also
I hate not Joe a Biden. Stretch, Scott. It's not like okay, Reagan was the oldest president to ever serve. He was 78 when he left office. It's not like, well, when Biden leaves in the second term, he'd be 80. It's not a stretch like that. He'd be 86. It would be a massive leap. I mean, this is a big ask.
And when you see him like walk into a room, he doesn't electrify. You know how you when he was younger, and like most good politicians, you burst into a room.
Yes.
He just sort of does the old man, the Mr. Burns kind of hand turn, and he walks like that now. And if you notice, he always has to have an aide next to him to help him get out of a chair.
Mm-hmm. I have noticed.
This isn't piling on. This isn't punching down. These are just facts. Now, going forward, the 5 people that article you forwarded to me this morning, obviously Kamala Harris, Governor Newsom from California. All of a sudden I'm having a very senior moment here. The governor of Michigan, Buttigieg, the governor of Michigan,
Gretchen Whitmer.
Yeah, Whitmer, who is the person I think would be the best candidate.
AOC is ridiculous, but yeah.
Why would you throw that in there? That's absurd. She's a goddamn congressman. First of all,
and she's 35. She's not even 35. She would be 35.
Yeah, and I mean, do you want to polarize? You want to have like.
Look, I like some things about AOC. I do think she's a terrible sellout, but I think, I think.
Wait. No, you can't just throw that out there, Ted. Why is she a sellout?
Because she voted for Nancy Pelosi for House Speaker. I mean, look, she came in there like, I'm the left-wing insurgency. I'm the new Bernie. I'm going to kick ass. Bernie lived in the political wilderness for decades on Capitol Hill and was willing to take the abuse of being marginalized and treated like shit by being an independent who caucused with Democrats, not a Democrat himself. And it cost him in many ways. He paid a price for his integrity. She paid no price whatsoever. She sold her soul right away, and she voted for aid to Ukraine. So it's like, I'm sorry, we did not vote for a progressive. Progressives are not militarists. If you're a militarist, good for you, but you are not a fucking progressive by definition.
Okay, yeah, I don't know why she was on that list. It seemed absurd to me. I mean, not for those reasons, just because of lack of experience.
She would never. She wouldn't. I don't know if she would get 25% of the vote in a general election.
No, she'd be George McGovern. She'd win.
It would be a catastrophe.
She'd win the district of DC and Minnesota. That's what she'd win.
Yeah, people talk a lot about Whitmer. I think she's a phony. But
okay, yeah, you've said that. I disagree.
But I guess a campaign is a major BS detector, so we would find that out in public. Yeah, it's kind of fascinating to me that nobody talks about Cory Booker or Amy Klobuchar. I think
Booker had his
Newsom
time.
is the central casting choice. He's got the looks.
It's absurd,
but he's got the looks. He's like perfect. Like he's like Max Headroom. I mean, you can imagine him as your president. I personally, as you know, have reasons to hate him personally, because his role in the LA Times lawsuit is in, impacting, let's just say that it is very likely that he influenced the California Supreme Court to reverse their previously favorable finding in my case.
Oh, because the LA Times got to him?
Yeah, the LA Times. Well, specifically, he gave a joint press conference with Dr. Pat Soon-Shiong. And Pat Soon-Shiong lied to the people of California and said that he was reopening a couple of closed hospitals in LA that he had closed in order to treat COVID patients during the pandemic. He never reopened them. And the very next day, the California Supreme Court reversed their favorable ruling in my case and in 2 other cases against the LA Times. Now, there are coincidences, and then there's Gavin Newsom. So now I think that's, that I think that basically Dr. Pat must have asked Newsom for some favors, and this was one of them. Could you make some things go away for me? And I think Gavin Newsom made a little phone call.
See, I just like him for not personal reasons. I just think he's run that state into the ground. He was mayor of San Francisco. Wow. Great job, dude. Now he's governor of California, which saw its first drop in population in the history of the state.
Yeah, that's absurd. So look, I think, but I do think Newsom is obviously the Duke of Orleans, right? He's the Prince of Wales. He's the ruler, the Democrat in waiting at this point. There's no question about it. No one else comes close. It's not going to be Little Pete from South Bend.
No, Pete. I think Pete would be a very sound president, but no.
But he won't. I don't think. Not to mention, I don't think Americans will vote for a gay president yet.
No,
should, but they won't. And also, I think Pete has some weaknesses. He didn't really shine as Secretary of Transportation. He couldn't be bothered to get his ass out to East Palestine, Ohio after that giant train derailment. He took, during the pandemic, he took parental leave. I think, was it 3 months or 6 months? Like 6. Right at the beginning of his term.
Yeah. Well, they knew.
Dude, you're in the cabinet. And also, it's not like, oh, you were married and you just happened to knock up your wife. He's gay. They arranged through a surrogacy. They scheduled parenthood here. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. No, I agree. Okay, so let's go back to Bidexit. And how does this play out now going forward? I mean,
well, that's the question, right? How does it? So,
are you hearing
A or
anything?
B? So let's go down the choices, and we'll each weigh in. Does it happen? In other words, will Biden be the nominee, or will he not be the nominee? Will he step aside, yay or nay? What say you?
Oh, I hate to. I'm gonna tap dance on this one only because
what
you
said you could just say what are the odds. Okay, I think the odds have spiked dramatically in this past week or two, just because of these poll numbers and this push of this flurry of mainstream corporate media that's now saying what could not be said before.
I don't think that I really do think he's so out of it that that doesn't resonate with him. And his people want to hold on to power. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say 30% chance that he voluntarily steps down.
Oh, forget about voluntarily. I don't care about the voluntary. Does he go? Should he stay or should he go now? Does he go?
Oh, you mean is he forced out? But let's say,
does he leave one way or the other? No, I don't. I think there's like 0% chance he leaves voluntarily.
Okay. Well, wait. You're gonna have to. I'm confused.
In other words, will he be the nominee? Will he leave?
Unless he leaves voluntarily, then 99% chance. Yeah, he'll be the nominee. Unless he leaves voluntarily, yeah.
Oh no, I think he'll be pushed out. I think at this point, I'd have to say 60% he's pushed out. Wow. I think they're scared.
Okay, we disagree on that a lot. I think that he wants it. He's got it locked up. He's got 2 incredibly weak primary opponents. He's going to walk unless he's says,
got a
I'm
vice
not ready.
President that nobody wants.
Well, there's that. Although she's doing better. I know people keep rolling their eyes and scoffing at me, but if you've seen her in the last year, clearly she got someone on staff to say you have to stop the Hillary cackle.
Scott, you only get one chance to make a good first impression, and she
right. She'd have to be all over the place, and they're still sending her to B and C list cities and B and C list events. So she'd have to work her ass off, and she doesn't seem to be.
She's not a hard worker.
Work. Yeah. She would have to be going to every, like the Democratic Party of Missouri and going to their dinners and doing
like Bill Clinton kind of things. Yeah, when
Harry Truman.
Yeah,
mm-hmm. Harry Truman did due diligence and during
how are things here in the Third Ward like that? Yeah.
No, and she's just not doing that, but she is performing better. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Wow, you and I really disagree on this.
This
I don't see how he cannot. I don't see how he can get pushed out. Well, who's going to do the pushing, by the way?
The DNC, the DNC can, and all the power brokers who really run the show can come to Joe and just say, listen, Mr. President, we just can't support you. We are sorry.
Right. And then he's going to do, I swear to God, this will happen, by the way.
And they could do it. They could tell him, we will, of course, if you insist, you will be the nominee, but it will be, you will not have the full cooperation of our committee. You will have a dutiful candidacy. Sort of like, it's sort of like, you and I both collect political ephemera. John W. Davis, the Democratic candidate in 1924, and of course, Harry Truman in 1948, both of them have their material. There's not many buttons, and their stuff's expensive because they were both expected to lose. And so the party was like, well, we'll do a dutiful, like, okay, John, all right, Harry, here's some buttons, but not much. Biden could get that treatment.
That's true. And then we have 4 more years of Trump, which will be a nightmare because he's
Biden's smart enough to know what like, without the full-throated support of the PACs and the committee and all that structure, that infrastructure, if it's not there for you, you can't win.
Yeah. I just think that it has to come from him. Now, can they talk him into it? Can they reason with him? I don't know. Wresting power, especially power at that level, away from someone, I just don't see it happening.
It's like Grandpa, we have to take away the keys to the
exactly.
To the limit. Yeah,
it's a very uncomfortable conversation, but you got to do it.
Right, right. It's like, sir, we got to take we got to take the launch codes away.
When he goes off script, it's embarrassing now. It's never been great, but now it's just like, the Kaiser will steal my string. What?
Sorry, cracking me up. What about okay, so let's just say, for the sake of argument, that it does happen. What, and I say, and 60% means it could very much still happen. He could very well run again. That's how it looks right now. What would he be? How would this look? When would it happen? Would it happen sooner rather than later? Would it happen later rather than sooner? The transfer, in other words, like the passing of the torch to a new generation.
The torch has been passed to a new generation. By the way, did you see my cartoon on that? It's really smart. I'll have to send it to you.
Cool.
It's the torch has been passed, and it's this wrinkly old hand with liver spots, and the torch is labeled power, and it's being handed to a younger hand, but the torch is actually chained to the old man.
Right.
They won't letting go of power. Look at Nancy fucking Pelosi announces that she's run for re-election.
Years old. She's so spry.
To save the Democratic Party. Her words, not mine.
What is she fucking talking about? Like, is there any world in which a Democrat would not be elected from her district? Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And she's not in leadership in the House. So
I don't even know what she's talking about. I mean, she's not senile, but she's obviously out to lunch. What about? But okay.
So how does it play out? So
how does it play out? How does it go?
Remind our listeners who it was on Center Clip who suggested that at the convention.
Her name is Rena Shaw.
Okay. Rena Shaw had a great idea, or a great, notion that what would happen, and this would be great. This would be smart. The theater would be amazing. You have the Democratic convention, and the president, instead of speaking on the last night, speaks on the first night. And people are going, whoa, that's weird. And so that gins up the audience. And then as the day progresses, comes close, they say he's got a major announcement.
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay, so the pundits and idiots like you and me go, well, what he's going to do is dump Kamala, or Kamala, or however you pronounce it. And so it's going to, and then he steps up to the microphone and says, listen, I've been recently diagnosed by Dr. Jill.
Sorry. With a bad case of the olds.
Yeah, a significant bad and terminal case of the olds. And say, I hereby step down and open the convention. You pick the nominee. You pick the winner.
Yes, like that's 1896.
Adlai Stevenson did that in the 56 Democratic convention for the vice presidential nomination. He says, it's up to you. You guys have fun. And it actually got pretty nasty. And it came down to Estes Kefauver and John F. Kennedy were the two there. And I think I'm trying to think if there were some
Kefauver,
other
obviously.
finalists. I think Hubert Humphrey had just given a speech. He was mayor of Minneapolis and gave this wonderful progressive speech. If you're a progressive and have not listened to it, go look it up on YouTube.
I have actually listened to it. It's a classic American speech. Yeah.
And so obviously, like people listening to this will know this, Estes Kefauver becomes the nominee for the vice president. And he and Stevenson march on to massive electoral failure in the fall campaign against the reelected Dwight David Eisenhower and Richard Milhouse Nixon.
Yes. Thus setting the stage for.
But we've had open conventions and they're fun. Could you imagine the interest that would gin up? Because and you and I are dorks. In last political conventions,
it doesn't have to be an open. It doesn't have to be an open convention. He could also say, I want you to vote for little Pete, who's always been there for me, and now he'll be there for you, or whatever.
Unless he's on parental leave.
I'm not sure little Pete himself would be able to get out without a note from his mom and dad.
Yeah, you're right. He could stand up and say, well, by Jiminy, Kamala, I like the cut of her jib. And there you go. I think you should, what was I saying? It could be something like that, or he could throw it open. My point is, and the point of our friend on Counterpoint, on Center Clip rather, really resonated with me. It's great theater. If he's going to step down, that's the way you do it.
And he's already cleared the field. So effectively, it's a coronation. The person doesn't have to campaign. They're already the nominee. I mean, it's that we can on another podcast, we can talk about whether, if this comes to pass, how people would take it. I personally think it would be gross politically and anti-democratic, small d democratic, but that's a different question. The other question is, what about, there's an argument to be made, why not do this now? Step aside and then either throw the primaries open, as you would suggest, or as I would suggest, or anoint your successor now and say, okay, so the DNC approved corporate candidate that we have now told everyone else to endorse and to stand down in favor of is Mr. or Ms. whatever.
I think doing it at the convention shortens the campaign and doesn't allow the it would really throw the Republicans off. I mean, Trump's reaction is going to be, bitchy Kamala or whatever nickname he comes up for.
Is a short campaign can a short campaign be advantageous? I mean, don't people need to get to know like Harris or Buttigieg or Klobuchar or whoever the fuck it's going to be?
Yes and no. I think that there's danger in knowing I think that politicians know this. At least they think they know it, that knowing them too well is to not like them.
Right.
So this means you get to set the table. You get to set the agenda. Listen, if he did this, whoever the nominee from the Democratic convention would control the narrative for 2 months. Mm-hmm. And the mainstream media would consider them, this is the greatest president since, ever. And that's who you're going to.
The most qualified person to ever run for the presidency. Pete Buttigieg.
If it's Kamala, he could also say, and as of this Friday, I am resigning the office of President of the United States. Vice President Harris will be sworn in as president.
And why not do that now so that she has a chance to sign some executive orders, give a lot of speeches, press conferences, let the American people see her being presidential.
Well, he may know her. I mean, that may be a problem. It may be a serious problem.
Yeah. And then of course there's the Harris question, right? I mean, can it be someone, if the heir apparent is someone other than Harris, what of Harris? I mean, she's not Prigozhin. She can't just have a plane accident. I mean, what do you do about her?
You could say things like, you could send her, Newsom's in his last term, right? I'm trying to remember if there's term limits in California, and I believe there are. So Newsom's in his last term. You could say she goes back to become governor of California. California needs her. There's an upswell, there's an outcry for her to become governor of.
They do have term limits.
So you could,
his term ends in 2027 though.
Oh, well, then there's a problem.
Yeah. So she can't do that.
No, and you're right. You've said this a million times. The optics of dropping her would be catastrophic.
Not especially, I mean, I think it would be rough even for a Republican to do it, but Democrats can't do it. They're the party of woke. There's no way they can ditch her. So, like, what now? I mean, I think they either have to go with her and hope for the best. I mean, they already know Biden's not working out. They have to go with her, or they've got to find her a sinecure, like, you're the president of Yale University or something like that.
Yeah, that's not that. If she doesn't want it, and she has said she doesn't want it, she has said openly.
I'm talking about behind the scenes.
I get that, but her public utterances are on more than one occasion. I'm going to be the vice president. I want to continue to serve as vice president under the great and noble.
People say things. People change.
I know they do, but I'm going with the Ted Rall line, which is absolutely correct. The optics of that are so horrific.
Yeah, it would be brutal.
That they can't do it. They have to have the black vote come out. They have to have the people of color vote come out this election.
All right, let me flip this Rubik's Cube before we move on to the next topic. Let's one more direction. Let's just say we get the Scott Stantis scenario, and one day Biden wakes up in the middle of the night and he's like, "Holy shit, what am I doing? I'm being a total asshole to the country." And plus, Hunter needs me. I mean, you know, that crack pipe's not going to fill itself. We have like Ukrainians to like shake down. I'm resigning. So like, let's say he's like, I'm not running again. He decides he's not running again. Now what? How does this affect the Harris thing?
If it does, then I think it's Betty Bar the door. Is it too late for a candidate to gin up a national or a primary campaign?
Big fucking question, isn't it?
It's huge. It's huge. I think, but they can look at the Trump model. I mean, he just ginned it up. He went down a fucking escalator and pretty much said, this is a campaign. And
because he was already a transnational corporate brand, with like more name recognition and visual recognition than any other human being since Jesus Christ. I mean, no other Democratic politician who would run for this, including Harris, has that kind of recognition. I mean, like, he's like, right? I mean, Donald Trump, no Democrat can replicate that formula. I mean, who is, I don't know. I mean, if maybe Elon Musk decided to become a Democrat and run for president, I mean, I'm not even kidding.
Yeah,
Oprah could do that.
Oprah, yeah. But I think then, you can still do it. I mean, you do it on a wing and a prayer. I suspect you'd have a massive influx of the Newsoms. I don't know that Pete Buttigieg would run against Harris. I think just there's
he would not. He would wait. He's still young. He knows he has time.
Yeah, he's going to go back and become mayor of North
Indianapolis.
Sure, why not? But you'd have new. I'm sorry, I've been to those places.
You too.
Yeah. And you're from Ohio. If you're looking down on Indiana, then
I used to be in the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, so which was a fine newspaper with an excellent syndicated taste in syndicated editorial cartoons.
So how does this play out? I think then you have a mad rush to the primaries if they're still available. I mean, don't forget the ballots get printed early.
The shit would have to happen within the next month. Yeah, because the first,
and maybe that's what they're
Iowa. Well, the first primary is South Carolina for the Dems, right? So they have a little time. That's going to be what, late January, early February.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yes. So you have that, and plus you have their convention's very late. I think it's in.
It's like it might be September, maybe.
Yeah, is it September? I think it is. Maybe October. But regardless, it's still.
It can't be October. It cannot be. That's
no. I think you're right. September. So it's going to be very late.
September. Almost. It's August 19th.
Okay.
The 27th.
That's fairly late for a convention. Anyway, so then you'd have to, and you could have like no clear winner. Harris wins South Carolina, but she loses to Newsom in Minnesota, and Whitmire takes Michigan. and Tennessee. You could have that no clear winner, and you could have a brokered convention, or at least an open convention. That would be a lot of fun. Again, I don't think
it would take away
things.
a lot of the drama from Trump. It would really be, I mean, Trump's going to be owning the media coverage with all the legal shit next year. So
legal shit, and he's going up to North Carolina this weekend or next weekend or sometime. He's going up there. So, and the female governor of North Dakota, rather, I forget her name, but she's a nut. I mean, she's a total.
Oh yeah, Noem, Noem.
Yeah, I think
Christy
he's going
Noem
up there to talk to her, to be the vice president.
Well, he met with her already.
Oh, did that already happen?
That already happened, yeah. And there was a lot of speculation that she's like a new Sarah Palin, kind of.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but she has done, yeoman's work in service of QAnon and MAGA. So he may like having a true worshiper as a vice president versus what he had the first term.
Yeah, that's true. Although I think he's smart enough to know that he needs, at least that time, he needed that person. I think to run in the general, he has to have like someone who feels like an adult, like in his sidecar. And he saw what happened with Sarah Palin. She did not help McCain, to say the least.
No, but he likes her. I mean, and she has been a loyal MAGA member also. That'd be funny if you picked her.
Yeah, that's true. He might pick her. Yeah, I don't know.
So you're right. It lets the Democrats steal the drama card away from the Republicans.
Now, to prolong this just a little more, I do want to ask, just to pivot a little bit over quickly to Trump. I've kind of had some rethinking about the legal lay of the land right now for Trump. Conventional wisdom is that he can pardon himself on the federal charges, but the state charges are the legal jeopardy because he can't do that. And right. But then I've been thinking, actually, the state charges are fucking weak. First of all, I don't see, let's say he's found guilty by Alvin Bragg's charges in Manhattan. I don't think any jury is going to send a guy to prison for fudging his business records. I think they're going to fucking fine him. Okay, I don't think that's it. So it doesn't matter. And then as for the other thing in Georgia, I don't know if you've been following this, but I wanted to hear what you thought. They released the grand jury votes on all of and in every single charge for Trump and the 18 co-defendants, there was not a single unanimous vote on a grand jury. I found that personally absolutely devastatingly shocking, because in a grand jury is not an adversarial process. There's no there's no defense attorney in the room. This is run entirely by the prosecution. The pressure on a grand juror is enormous to indict. They always do. The votes are always unanimous. They always do it. And they just send it along, right? They're literally yelled at if they vote no on an indictment. So you have to have incredible independence and really call bullshit and think these charges are crap for you to vote no in a grand jury. And down in Fulton County, they did that on every fucking count.
I had not heard that. That's fascinating.
And that to me says, if I was Willis, I would be Fani Willis. I'd be looking at that and saying, I'm fucked, because all Trump needs is one juror, and he walks. And he's going to get that one juror. And I know that Republicans are like, well, Atlanta is a very black, very blue city. It is. Even so,
Yeah, but there are, the jury.
And there are black people who like Trump, by the way. People always forget that. But that is definitely true.
Yeah, but Atlanta's not just that. First of all, it's a huge, sprawling metropolis. And so they will be able to draw, and they will find a MAGA person, and
that'll be that.
And that'll be,
So I don't think the legal stuff, he's really in that much trouble.
I think he's playing it brilliantly too. I think the t-shirts, him selling t-shirts and mugs with that mugshot are brilliant. I think it's absolutely
brilliant. Yeah, he totally he's making lemonade from the lemon. But
how many of your Democratic friends think, oh, we got him because they got the mugshot?
They all think it. They and I'm like, you guys just don't understand the game you're playing. They think they're playing lacrosse and it's football. It's different. It's like, you just don't know. I don't even understand at all what they're thinking, and they're not reading the polls. I mean, this is 2016 all over again. It's just pure denial. Like, well, they can't vote for him because he's such an asshole. Like,
and I get that. I can't vote for him because he's such an asshole. But you know,
others will.
Yes. Well, and yeah, my wife has a great line. She says, I'd vote for lawn furniture before I'd vote for Trump. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of people out there like that, but that's not enough to motivate. And the thing that won for Biden in 2020 was they had a great get out the vote. Donald Trump still got 70 million votes.
And don't forget, Donald Trump did not have a good get out the vote campaign last time because he told his people not to vote early and not to vote by mail. He's not going to make that mistake this time. You can tell he's already got a more disciplined campaign. Look at how little he's out there right now. He's shutting up, which is not easy for him. You know, I mean, he didn't even show up to the debate. He's probably not showing up to the second debate. I don't know. It's interesting.
If I was him, why would you? I mean, what's the point? These guys are the people.
I'm trying to get up to 70% in my polls.
And the danger there is that, you know, they're going to zing them, and there's 2 or 3 of them who are going to go after him. And you know, why put yourself in that position?
Yeah. And he kind of,
I think he should. Don't misunderstand me. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying here. He should run. I mean, he should be in the debates, but he won't be. If I was him, I'd say,
by the way, I can't believe that even someone like Chris Christie didn't troll him during the first debate.
Yes.
Like, hey, pussy, how come you're not here? Oh, Donald, where are you? It's like they didn't do that. Like,
how fun would it have been to like have a podium,
little boy,
like a little podium, and put it on top of your podium. So this is like, and it'll make and Donald, it'll make your hands look huge.
Right, exactly. All right, we're gonna leave that there and come right back to our next bone of contention. I don't know why I said that. We may not have had a. By the way, what exactly is a bone of contention? Like, what did the bone ever do? Why are people fighting over it?
Why is it contentious?
All right. It's a good question. All right. Stay here.
Please.